One of the ways we're hooked up, our brain is hooked up, is that our brain is always on the lookout, without even knowing it. Our brain is on the lookout. In other words, our brain pays attention to what is changing. And it pays attention to what is changing for some very good reasons. Most of those reasons have to do with your biological survival. And your brain discounts, doesn't pay attention to what's not changing. Make sense? So your heart's beating. You're not aware of your heart beating all the time, are you? You could be, but you're not. You're breathing quite continuously, but you're not really aware that you're breathing. Why? Why aren't you always focused on your breathing? Why is your mind always being taken off somewhere else other than your heart beating and your breathing? See, because your brain doesn't think it's very important. It's like, well, it's always there. I don't need to breathe. I don't need to pay attention to it. If it's always there, it's not threatening. It's not going to kill me. It's not going to jump out of the woods. You know, what's going to jump out of the woods is something that's changing, that wasn't there one moment, and the next moment it's coming after me. So our brain, the way we're hooked up is we don't pay attention to what is constant. It's what frees the mind, frees the brain, frees consciousness up to be scanning the field constantly like radar, looking for what's new, right? What's changing? What's new? Because it might be really important for me to pay attention to what's new because it might be threatening, you know? So if you're walking down the street, you forget all about the fact that you're walking down the street. But you sure as heck realize when that bus comes out of nowhere and is just about to hit you. That's what you pay attention to. But when we're caught in that space of the mind continuously, endlessly, we're caught in a very surface perception of existence. Necessary if you're out on the plains of the Serengeti with nothing but a stick to defend yourself with. It's useful to pay attention to anything that may be changing in your environment, right? The next weird sound around that tree over there, because it might mean danger. But of course, we're not on the Serengeti, and we sure don't just have a stick at our disposal to protect ourselves with. So what meditation is, the time to sit in stillness, is actually, it is the art of paying attention to what your mind usually discounts. So as we know, our mind is usually paying attention to what's always moving, right? What I think, the next feeling that comes down the pike. Whatever's changing, it's... Now, by change, I don't mean that it doesn't repeat. It can be extraordinarily, annoyingly repetitive. But at least it's moving. At least it's noisy. But the art of just sitting in stillness is to pay attention to what you don't usually pay attention to. To pay attention, to allow into your field of perception what is constant. That's why I believe we call it silent sitting. Silence is a constant. Real silence. Relative silence isn't a constant. Relative silence comes and goes with the absence or presence of noise. But real silence, it's a constant. It's just always there. Your own consciousness is a constant. Your awareness is a constant. It's always there. It's not that you can't pay attention to it, it's just that we're not used to it because our brain has decided that it's not relevant, it's always there. It's unimportant. I have to pay attention to the content of my consciousness because that's what's always moving. So really, meditation is the art of paying attention to what's constant. Simple. If only it were. So in meditation, one isn't trying to solve anything. You're not trying to consciously work anything out. You're not trying to consciously figure anything out. You have all the rest of the day to do that. You have your entire life to try to figure everything out. Even though it doesn't really work. You can go on and figure things out for the rest of your life. Give yourself a few moments, a few times a day, to not try to figure everything out. You might be amazed at how well life can figure things out through you. It's really quite good at figuring things out, life. It really is quite amazing. You just let go for a while and things clarify themselves. You notice this? If you really just let them go, if you have a little bit of trust, you're all in a muddle and you just kind of go, forget it, I'm muddled. And you just let go. It's amazing. Life has this way that it can clarify things for you, bring things to you. It does it for you if you allow it to. I don't think many of us were taught that, were we? We weren't really taught that life has, number one, a basic intelligence to it. We're taught we have intelligence and life is stupid. Basically, aren't we? I mean, we can't figure it out, but it's basically stupid. It bumbles around until it gets something right on the 10 millionth try, and then it sticks with that for a while. So life is dumb and I'm smart. That's kind of the thing. That's the stance. I mean, someone doesn't say that overtly, do they? But covertly, the message you get. So it's a foreign idea that maybe life can bring clarity to us. That maybe just really by just kind of being, that clarity can come to us just through that act. So as many of you know, I mean, there's a whole write-up of meditation that you all have access to here, but that my sort of summation of what it is to meditate, to sit in silence, is to allow everything to be as it is. Why? Because what's constant in you is already doing that. You can't do that, by the way. You cannot allow everything to be as it is. You can't leave things alone for a split second. You can't stop from mucking with things. You will fail at this, okay? The you who tries to do it right will definitely not be able to do it. So you might as well admit that up front. It'll save you lots of time, possibly years. It really will. So it's not something you do. That what is constant in your experience, and I've already named a few things, but the rest you can discover for yourself. Silence, consciousness, awareness, constant. That those three things, they're allowing everything to be as it is. Is not silence. Does silence seem to have an argument with what's happening? Is it going into opposition with what is? Is it really upset about what is? How about consciousness? How about the awareness? Is it trying to change everything that's happening? Trying to manipulate it? Turn it to one's own advantage? Or is it just allowing everything to be as it is? So you see, this is something you notice. It's not something you try to do. It's something you just notice. Within your experience, none of this is outside of your experience. That's the key. If it's outside of your experience, if you're thinking about it and you're trying to impose it upon yourself, you're quite literally wasting your time. But if you start to notice within the midst of your own experience, on your own authority, that your own awareness, your own consciousness is completely allowing this moment to be as it is, with or without your consent. Whether you like it or not, that's what it's doing. Your awareness even allows you not to like the moment. It can't not allow everything to be as it is, do you see? So this is something that's innate in your experience, and to start to notice it, to start to find it, is the important thing. And you begin to allow that stillness to clarify things for you, instead of you always trying to clarify everything, instead of you always leading. You're following, as it were. Paying attention to what always is. Not to the exclusion of everything else. But simply paying attention to what always is.